Hello everyone from my beautiful home here in rural China. If you've never seen this channel before, my name is Catherine and I've been living in China for the past 5 years. Prior to moving out here, I had only lived in cities, just explored rural China here and there just for fun. But then my boss offered me a chance to move out to this village where our organization has an office. And of course, I snatched that offer right up because I've always found rural China to be so fascinating. And I finally got the chance to actually live in a village. And there are a whole bunch of videos about the moving in process, the house tour, all those things. You can check those out if you're interested. But today, I'm going to be sharing with you guys my favorite things about living in rural China. So you all can come to your own conclusion, whether it was worth it or not for me to move all the way out here. And of course, I will also be putting out a video about my least favorite things about living in rural China, and y'all can check that out too in a week or two. So anyway, let's start from the positive things. First and foremost, my very favorite thing about living in rural China is the feeling that you are part of a community instead of being a little blip in a vast sea of people. And obviously this is not China specific, this is specific to any country on earth. When I was living in apartments before, I didn't even know the person living right next to me, let alone anyone else on the floor, anyone else in the building. There are just too many people. And if you go outside for like a walk or something, you just can't tell who's who. There's just too many people from too many different buildings. But out here, I go on my evening walk and I pass the same people in the same yard at the same house every single time. So I'm actually able to get to know people and chat with them on a regular basis, and I really love that. Neighbors also like to bring food to me sometimes, like corn, sweet potatoes, chicken eggs, duck eggs. And I try and bring things to them as well, or give them something in return. On the topic of food, I am accustomed to greeting people by saying good morning, good afternoon, good evening, based on whatever time of the day it is. But the way that they respond to me is the local style, which is to say, 你吃饭了吗? This always happens on my evening walk. They'll ask if I've eaten yet, and I'll be like, no, I'm gonna have dinner when I get back from my walk. And they'll be like, oh my goodness, that's so late. Have you eaten dinner yet? Have you eaten lunch yet? The grandmas wanna know. This is important information. And yes, grandmas wanna know that. It's more of an elderly people thing. The younger people in the village, like 30s, 40s, are more likely to greet me with a hello, and that's that, you know, keep it simple. The fact that everyone has their own yard space also means that more activities and events are held right here in the local community instead of being put in restaurants or hotels or whatever as you would do in the city. So that's why I've ended up being a part of religious festivals or new house ceremonies or even a funeral recently. There was a funeral that was being held literally right outside my house. And when I say funeral, don't think of like a bunch of people in a church standing there all somber. It was basically a big lunch party. So it was like a celebration of life of the person who had passed away. And I didn't actually know that person. I never met them. They were a relative of the person living right over there. But I got invited anyway because I'm part of this community. So they were like, come to the luncheon. And it was just a very lively, happy atmosphere there. And it was very unlike any funeral I'd ever been to before, but that's how they do things here in rural China.
那大红包一个，
红包？
哎，
不应该是我送你们红包吗？
不是，这个给你的。
谢谢。The second thing that I really like about living here is that basically nothing goes to waste. So any food scraps I have go to my neighbor's chickens. It would go to my chickens if I had any. I really want some, but I just travel too much for work and it's just such a headache thinking of how to coordinate getting the neighbors to always come over here and watch the chickens. So I still haven't gotten chickens. For now, I'm living vicariously through my neighbor and her chickens. So I bring my leftovers to the chickens. They gobble it all up. They think everything I make is 5 stars, chef's kiss. And I love how when I give my neighbor's chickens my food scraps, they can then turn the food scraps into eggs. And then sometimes my neighbor gives me those eggs. So it's a beautiful cycle of nutrients.
Bringing some leftover rice to the neighbor's chickens, and look who escaped. What are you doing? What are you doing?
And I do have a separated trash system here. They give everyone a little trash can that has a regular trash and a compostable trash, 2 sides to the bin. And you may be wondering about recycling. They don't have a designated recycling bin because you can just leave your recyclables on the side of the road and someone will come and take them within like an hour. So they don't need like an actual official recycling truck to come pick that stuff up because people want to sell it. There's actually a scrap seller right down the road. If I feel like carrying stuff, I'll go over there and sell it for a few bucks. Otherwise, just leave it on the side of the road here and it'll get taken. Something else that I really love about this place is that there's so many natural materials being used instead of just plastic and metal. For example, bamboo. You may have noticed the mountains here are completely covered in bamboo, and it is a very versatile material for making all sorts of things. For example, the coat hangers in my house are bamboo, and in the back there is a bamboo that's being used to dry clothes. I also have a little bamboo chair, and just walking around the neighborhood you can see bamboo being used for so many different things. Fences, trellises, something to hang a wire on. You can use bamboo for so much different stuff. And actually right now there's bonus bamboo out in the village landscape because this is bamboo shoot season. This is when all the bamboo shoots are growing. So very recently my neighbors have dug all these bamboo shoots out of the mountain and cut them up in little slices, and they're drying it out to preserve it. So yes, you could put it in the freezer, but apparently it doesn't taste good like that. So people are drying the bamboo to preserve it, so you get a bonus bamboo if you go for a walk at this time of year. There's bamboo everywhere here. Another thing that I absolutely love about living in rural China is being in such close proximity to untouched nature. And that is not the case for all rural areas. It has to be somewhere with mountains, because if it was all flat, then it would have all been turned into farmland, so you don't necessarily get that untouched nature kind of experience. But where I'm living now, there's a mountain there, there's a mountain there, there's a mountain there. There are mountains in all directions, and they're not very farming friendly. There's a few tea fields, but that's it. Also, nobody wants to farm there anyway, because the bamboo growing on the mountain in itself is a crop, basically. They don't harvest it in massive amounts, but they'll take bamboos here and there, you know, keep it sustainable. So the mountains are a very nice asset that this place has, not just economically, but also aesthetically. So every evening, as long as I'm here, I'm not traveling somewhere else, I always go for a walk through the bamboo forest. I've got several different routes I take, anywhere between 30 minutes and like 3 hours. It never gets old walking through that beautiful bamboo, seeing that amazing view. And cities in China are very green. I'm not saying they're not. I mean, you get amazing parks everywhere you go, especially on the riverbanks. There's so many nice walking paths, but it is manicured nature. It's got, you know, mowed lawns and trimmed hedges, and it just doesn't have that pure untouched feeling that you can get in a place like this. So I just love being immersed in the bamboo mountains, hearing the birds chirping, seeing the gigantic grasshoppers and all these big bugs out here. I love bugs. So yeah, I just really love the forests out here. They're amazing. It's so fantastic. Never gets old. So as you can probably tell from the drone footage, this place is pretty far out in the middle of nowhere. It's about 45 minutes driving on the highway to get to the west edge of Hangzhou, or it's about an hour and a half to 2 hours on public transport. So it's far-ish. So that means the cost of living here is a lot lower than what I've ever had before. When I was living in Hangzhou, I had a loft apartment for 3,700 RMB per month. And now I have this whole house and this whole yard for 2,500 RMB a month. And you may still think that sounds expensive because this is rural China, but do remember that we are in Zhejiang, which is a more developed part of the country, and we're also still in the radius of Hangzhou, which is the provincial capital. So there's only so cheap it's gonna be, but I'm pretty satisfied with this cost of living. And this is also the first time I've really made a house into a home. Whenever I lived in apartments in the past, I would just use the furniture that they came with. I wouldn't really put anything up on the walls because when you take it down, the landlord's gonna get mad. So yeah, I didn't really personalize my living space very much before, but now coming out here, I mean, I'm the one who had these walls painted, okay? Nobody is gonna be fighting with me about what I hang on the walls. So it's nice to have a space that I can really get creative in and do some cool stuff with. So I feel like I have designed it to be pretty aesthetic, pretty nice, cozy space that really feels like a home and not just like a house. I love my home office. I love the view out the window. I just really love living here. But of course, there are some downsides, because that's life. Nothing can be perfect, right? So there are some really annoying things about living here as well, and I'll share those with you in the next video. But anyway, let me know in the comments what you guys think. Would you move to rural China if the opportunity was presented to you. And also, if you have any questions for me, drop them in the comments because I am about to do another Q&A video. It's about time. The time is ripe. So if you have any juicy questions, please leave them in the comments. And I'll see you guys next time.